On the 6th of May 2023, we will celebrate King Charles III's coronation. But what is a coronation? Well, let's wind all the way back to 1066, when William the Conqueror was crowned king at Westminster Abbey. At that moment, all of the roles and responsibilities of being a king officially became his. Since then, there's been almost 1,000 years of different kings and queens, and now King Charles is the 40th person to be crowned at Westminster Abbey. So, what happens in a coronation? Well, there are trumpets and shouting,
"Long live the king!"
and lots of ancient heavy gold things that everyone is trying very hard not to drop.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
The king is anointed with oil, presented with precious objects,
Careful.
and finally crowned with a crown that has 444 jewels in it. One of the most important parts of the coronation is when the king makes oaths or promises about how he is going to serve us. But hang on, where have we got the idea that kings should serve us and not the other way round? Well, the Bible tells the story of a great and mighty king, King Jesus. This king is the Son of God. But when he came to earth, he said he did not come to be served, but to serve.
What?
And that's what he did. He made friends with the outcasts.
Hi.
He healed the sick. He even washed his friends' feet.
Ew.
But the main reason that King Jesus came was to serve us by dying for us on a cross, to pay the price for all the things that we've got wrong. And we see reminders of King Jesus all over the place throughout the coronation. In the songs, in the words, on the orb and the scepter, and even on the crown. And as we look at them, they can be a reminder to us and to King Charles that Jesus is the King over all the world. He rules with perfect love and justice, and he has come to serve us, taking up a crown of thorns, so that through his death we can be forgiven. So however we mark King Charles's coronation, let us celebrate that Jesus is our true and forever servant king. And let us pray for King Charles, that God would help him as he seeks to serve us.
So, Chris asked if anyone had seen the coronation yesterday, and I think there are one or two hands. So what I'm looking for now is somebody who would like to play the role of king. Anyone fancy being king today? Michelle, do you want to choose someone?
Look, the hands went
I mean,
straight
probably
up.
have to go for a boy, don't
Yeah,
we?
I think
Just
so.
for the
Shall-
sake of it looking authentic.
Shall we have Seb? Seb is looking very keen. Let's give Seb a big round of applause.
Hooray.
Come on then.
Can you see? Can you work out which chair might be yours? What are you thinking? The bigger one, exactly. So do you want to put on? I think you should have a robe, don't you? Do you think you should have a robe? Yeah. This looks like it. Oh, it's inside out. There we go. That never happened yesterday, did it? I bet they worked that out. Yes, exactly. How about a crown? I think I'll put it on like the Archbishop did yesterday.
Okay,
Do you want to take your seat? Take your seat. Did you spot what he did? Eventually, he gave up and just left it, didn't he? Oh, I've broken it. There we go. That didn't happen yesterday either. Anyway, Michelle, I'm sure you can sort that out. Now then, does anybody fancy sitting on the left and the right? Oh, look, there's some hands up straight away, Michelle. Okay, I think... Okay. Do you want to pick two to go on the left and the right?
Oh, to go on the left and the right. Shall we have Joshua? Do you want to come up? Let's give Joshua a big clap.
Yay.
And Seth, do you want to come up? Come on then.
Right. Now, I want you to imagine, okay, so we've got our characters here. Now, I want you to imagine that yesterday you were at the coronation and King Charles is coming by and you decided to yell out, hey, Charlie, do you mind if I sit next to you? What do you think? Would that have been a good thing to have done? Do you think that? Or how about this? Even worse, okay, you're with your mum's there, and she yells out, hey, Charlie, is it all right if my lad sits next to you at the front there? What do we think about that? Would that have been an outrageous thing to ask? Would have been, wouldn't it? Well, have a listen to this story, this account from the Bible that Michelle is going to read for us now.
The mother of Zebedee's sons came to Jesus. Her sons came with her. Getting on her knees, she asked a favor of him. What do you want? Jesus asked. She said, promise me that one of my 2 sons may sit at your right hand in your kingdom. Promise that the other one may sit at your left hand.
What do you think of that? Now, of course, when you get to the coronation yesterday, I don't know if you noticed growing up, so there was a hot debate as to where Harry was going to be seated. Did you notice that in the papers? There he is. Can you see he's sort of peering from about 3 rows back, having to peer around a feather to see what's going on. Now, obviously, there's lots of speculation as to why he was seated there, particularly behind a feather. But I think it's probably just protocol, really, isn't it? With the newspapers probably having a field day. But why do you think the newspapers think it matters where Harry got to sit relative to King Charles? Why was it that this mum wanted her sons to be sat next to Jesus? What is going on there? And it's all to do with what we think it means, isn't it? It's all to do with whether we think it means the closer you are to the king, the more important you are. That's what we think, isn't it? We think that you're more important if you're closer to the king. So if we think that's what it means, then that's why it's a really bad thing to ask, isn't it? It's really an outrageous thing to ask. Can I sit near the king? Can I be right next to the king? It's something the king offers us, not something we ask for. That's just rude. And it's even more embarrassing, isn't it? If your mum grabs your hands, runs forward, oh, Mum, don't do this, don't ask that, please don't. She's not really asking, though, about where they sit, is she? She's asking for her sons to be seen as more important. She wants glory for them. That's why she wants them next to the king. She wants them to be seen as special. Now, if it was King Charles that she was asking, well, that would probably be true, wouldn't it, in reality? If you get to sit next to King Charles at the front of the coronation, that probably does make you quite special. That's probably why only his wife was sat there. All that finery, all that amazing crown that we just heard cost, was it 5 billion? That's quite a lot of money, isn't it, for a crown? Quite a lot of money. You can see why he didn't look up when the red... Oh, they changed it by then, hadn't they? They didn't even let him walk out the abbey with it, I don't think. Riding a golden coach. That's what might be expected if you asked to sit next to the king. That's what this mum is hoping for when she wants them to sit next to Jesus. That's what she thinks she's asking for. She gets that Jesus is a king, but she doesn't actually understand what sort of king he is. She's got it all wrong. Listen to what Jesus says to her next.
You don't know what you're asking for, Jesus said to them. Can you drink the cup of suffering I am going to drink? We can, they answered. Jesus said to them, you will certainly drink from my cup, but it is not for me to say who will sit at my right or my left hand. These places belong to those my Father has prepared them for.
So what is this cup that Jesus is talking about? Is it a nice cup of tea maybe, do you think? I mean, some people had a really nice tea yesterday. Sergey sent me this picture. There they are, the family. They've got Union Jack everything, even a cake stand. There's scones or scones, depending on how you want to say them. Are they chocolate cupcakes are we looking at there? And little meringues with fruit on, all washed down with a nice cup of tea. that is probably not, is it, what Jesus is talking about when he talks about a cup of suffering, unless you don't like scones, that is. Jesus is God's king, yes, but his throne is not going to be a fancy affair like King Charles had. His throne is going to be a cross. He's not going to sit on a comfy chair, but he's going to hang on a cross, suffering. The crown, there is a picture of that crown that's worth 5 billion. Jesus' crown is going to be a crown of thorns. And it's going to be cruelly pushed down on his head as soldiers mock him, make fun of him. The regalia that Charles wore yesterday all had great significance, didn't it? I don't know if you listened to the commentary. Jesus' regalia was painful wounds in his body, holes in his hands and feet as he was hung on a cross. Jesus talks about suffering, not glory. See, that mum's request is outrageous because she thinks it means glory for her sons. Jesus tells her it's outrageous because it means suffering for her sons. She's got Jesus all wrong, and we're going to find out a little bit more about that in a moment. Let's give our king and his helpers a bit of a cheer. You can go back to your seats now. You can keep the crown and robe on for now if you like. You can head back to your seat. Thank you. Thank you, Seb. That's brilliant. We're going to sing a song now that talks about the lion and the lamb. 2 ways that the Bible uses to describe Jesus for us. So please stand as we sing.
Well, we're going to play a game now called Throny or Phony. You'll see why. Bit of an F title, but you'll see why. We are going to hear some names of some kings. And when you hear the names of the kings, you have to decide if they're real, throny, or whether they're not real, phony. So throny means that you think they're real, and phony means that you think that they're fake. They're not real kings. They're ones that are made up. Now, the way this is going to work, in a moment, I'm going to ask everyone to stand up. When you're standing up, you'll hear the name and see it on the screen, the name of a king. You have to decide, just quickly, if you're not good at making decisions, this isn't a game for you. Very quickly, just decide, is that throny or phony? I'll ask you to put your hand up if you think it's throny, then to put your hand up if you think it's phony. If you get it right, you get to stay standing up. If you get it wrong, you have to sit down. Hopefully by the end, it'll be like the 1% Club, you know, that TV show. We're going to have the cleverest people left standing at the end, and there will be a prize. So, everyone on their feet, everyone standing up. If you can manage it, don't worry if you can't. Okay. We're starting easy. Henry VIII, do you think he is throny? Put your hand up if you think he's throny. He's real. I think that's a pretty good show of hands. Put your hands down. Put your hand up if you think he's phony. Well done. First round, we've got everyone still standing. Okay, next one. There he is, look. There's Henry VIII. He was King of England from 1485 to 1509. Okay, next one. Richard the Lionheart. Is he throny? Is he throny? We've got quite a few. Okay, hands down. Is he phony? If you said phony, you need to sit down because he's real. He was King of England from 1189 to 1199. Well done if you're still standing. Next one. Ivan the Terrible. Is he throny? Put your hand up if you think Ivan the Terrible is real, throny. Not so sure this time. Okay, put your hand up if you think he's phony. Okay, he is in fact throny. Sit down if you said phony. He was King of Russia from 1547 to 1584. Oh, look, we've got quite, okay. Well done if you're still standing. Next one. Charles the Bald. No reflection on King Charles. Okay, put your hand up if you think that he is throny, if you think that's real. Okay, put your hand down. Put your hand up if you think he's phony. He is, in fact, real. He was King of France from 843 to 877. And if you look at the picture, I have no idea why he was called Charles the Bald. Look at him. He's got loads of hair. Anyway, Charles the Bald. Okay, we do not have that many left standing. Okay. Ivalo the Cabbage. Do we think he's throny? Put your hand up if you think he's throny. You've seen all the answers. Right, you don't count. Okay. Put your hand up if you think he's phony. He is, in fact, throny. He was king of Bulgaria, and he was only king for a year because he was a peasant that led a revolt, and he became king, and that's why he's called Ivalo the cabbage. No reflection on how he looks. Okay, who have we got left standing? 1, 2, 3. We only got 3 left standing. Okay, Frederick the Hungry. Is he throny? We're going for throny over there. Is he phony? He is, in fact, phony. Okay, it's between Steve and Matt.
I think I better just sit down. I mean, Matt's got to
No, we're going to do it to the bitter end. You'll have to give your prize away. William the Reckless. Oh, she's still... I'm sorry, Zara. Well, it's not just you and Matt. Zara is in it as well. William the Reckless. Is he throny? Put your hand up if you think he's throny. Put your hand up if you think he's phony. He is, in fact, phony. Does that mean we've got Zara left? We have a winner. We've got Zara. Zara, come here. You have won the prize. Well done. Now you're all wishing you'd thought a bit better. There we are. Let's give Zara another big clap. There we are. Go and sit down. Well done.
Now, there is a king that we never got to. Let me see if we get past Otto the Crazy, Richard the Rude, Harold's the Bluetooth. Now, he is, in fact, a real king. Now, I know this for a very strange reason. When I was working as an engineer for a consultancy in Cambridge, we developed technology, which you're very familiar with, called Bluetooth, on behalf of a company called Ericsson, who at the time were quite a big phone manufacturer. And what has he really got to do? Let's just get past all these other kings, so we'll get to the bit that matters. There we go. There is that little symbol. Now, the extraordinary thing about the name Bluetooth is it is actually named after that Scandinavian king. He was a king of Denmark. And he did actually have a Bluetooth. Obviously, it's a long time ago. We don't really know why it was blue. Probably it was just rotten. If there are any dentists in, I expect that's probably the reason. Anyway, what he actually did was he united warring tribes in Denmark. So that's why they decided to name. The idea was that bits of tech could be united, do you get it, by this little wireless link. That's why they decided to call it Bluetooth. So your car or your laptop or whatever it is can all talk to your phone or to earbuds. So he was in fact a real king with a real name called Harold Bluetooth. But better even than that, and this is what used to make me chuckle as a Christian working, he was also much more famous for introducing Christianity to Denmark. So far better than just enabling bits of tech, your earbuds to talk to your phone so you can hear your music. He introduced people to Jesus in Denmark. That was an amazing thing that Harold Bluetooth did. A real king with a real impact on people's lives. But today, we're actually looking at a real king with even greater worldwide impact, even more important than just connecting your earbuds to your phone. We're going to look at why it was that King Jesus had such a difference, made such a difference across the world. So, do you remember, we've got this mum who wants her 2 sons. What did she want them to do? She wanted them to sit next to Jesus. Well, there were 12 disciples. They were 2 of them. Can you imagine what the others thought about that? They'd be a bit jealous, wouldn't they? They'd be saying, why them? They're not going to be too happy. So listen carefully as Michelle reads it. Here's what I need you to do, okay? This is where you've got to focus, you've got to concentrate. Jesus says there are 2 types of ruler. One of them is a good ruler, and one of them is a bad one. I'm going to ask you afterwards which one it is, okay? So see if you can tell which it is. Which one is throny, and which one is phony. I thought that was quite good. I didn't feel that Michelle got the appreciation for that she deserves. It's a good dad joke, isn't it? I know, she's a mum, but anyway. Okay, let's listen to what happened next.
The other 10 disciples heard about this. They became angry at the two brothers. Jesus called them together. He said, "You know about the rulers of the Gentiles. They hold power over their people. Their high officials order them around."
Okay, we don't want that just yet. So, did anyone spot it? What's the difference? Any hands up? Rulers of the Gentiles, what are they like? Bossy, thank you. Do you think that's good or bad? Bad. They want to be in charge, don't they? They want to tell others what to do. They want people bowing down to them. They want people serving them, doing stuff for them. Bad rulers, the phony kings, they're all about themselves. So Jesus, we're going to look at a little bit later on what Jesus says greatness actually looks like, okay? What a good king would actually be like, what he might say is better. And we're going to hear that good rulers, the greatest rulers, are all about others, all about serving other people, not about having people do stuff for them. That is exactly why Jesus had such an impact on the world. And we're going to look at that in a minute, even more than Bluetooth. But what I want you to do to get a clue for that is to listen to the words, the very first words that King Charles said. So he'd walked up the aisle, he'd had the coach, all the air-conditioned coach, and I didn't need it, did he, in the end, yesterday. And then he was at the front, and the first things he said, and I've got a clip for you to watch, the very start of the coronation. Watch and see if you can see what he said. Here's his very first words.
Your Majesty, as children of the kingdom of God, we welcome you in the name of the King of Kings.
In his name and after his example, I come not to be served, but to serve.
Well, we are going to sing of that King now, King Jesus. It's actually a song that if you came to Holiday Club, you are going to absolutely smash this. If you came to Easter Sunday service, it's going to be familiar. But it's lift up your voices. There are actions to follow along with. Please don't be shy. Let's really lift up our voices to Heaven's King this morning. Please stand to sing. I've got my first helper.
So, we're still working out good king, bad king, remember, you're still looking out for that. And listen again to those words of King Charles.
Your Majesty, as children of the kingdom of God, we welcome you in the name of the King of Kings.
Here we go, listen
In his
to what it
name
says.
and after his example, I come not to be served, but to serve.
So the King of Kings that boy is referring to is in fact Jesus. And in his example, he says, you know what that means? He's saying, copying that king. This is what I'm going to do. So copying Jesus Christ, what's he going to do? Who spotted it then? What is it that makes for a good king? A throny king, not a phony king. Anyone? Not a single person? What do we think, Michelle? What do you do at this point when nobody's getting it?
Come on, you give them another clue. Give them another clue. They
So
began with
bad
S.
kings, remember? What were they doing? They were ruling it over. We've got a few here, look.
Yeah.
Lola, for example. Serve the other way round, you see. We think kings should have people bowing down and scraping and giving them stuff and all that kind of thing. But did you see right at the start of the coronation, what they actually said is that King Charles is going to be like Jesus and serve his people. And of course, that's exactly what his mum did. That's exactly what it should be. So now let's read the next bit of our Bible passage.
Don't be like that. Instead, anyone who wants to be important among you must be your servant, and anyone who wants to be first must be your slave. Be like the Son of Man. He did not come to be served. Instead, he came to serve others. He came to give his life as the price for setting many people free.
See, when King Charles talks about service, probably what he has in mind is representing us, representing the UK abroad and to dignitaries and important people, presidents and things like that. He probably has to go and open buildings, doesn't he? Things like that. He has to be a figurehead of charities, or wants to be. All those kinds of things. It's getting behind good causes, that sort of thing. And I'm sure that he's going to be really busy working for us in his capacity as our king. He will serve us. Being king is not about us doing stuff for him. That's not what he wants. That's not a good king, as we saw. Well, yesterday, in an interview with Lord Carrington, in a passing remark, he said something really telling. Listen to this comment by Lord Carrington.
But it goes by reign, and I will continue this role either until I fall off my perch, or, God forbid, the king falls off his perch.
Well, Lord Carrington, very
God forbid that King Charles should fall off his perch. Let me translate that for you from posh person speak to Essex boy. That means, God forbid that the king should die. Which is odd, isn't it? God forbid that King Charles should die. Now compare it to what Jesus said he would do. Did you spot it? Exactly that. Die. That is exactly what Jesus is going to do. He'd give his life to set people free. Now that ought to send a little bit of a shiver down our spine, because that is very different, isn't it? What does Jesus mean? The crown that Jesus wore is the clue. So we're going to get you to help us with that, Michelle.
Okay, so hidden around the church building, not in Tiddlers, not through any doors, just in the main church building, are some crowns. These are not hidden particularly well. These are an example of what you're looking for. So I want children, and youth can join in if they want, to go around and find yourself a crown. When you found it, go and sit back down. Off you go.
Michelle.
Great, someone's moved the crown of
No,
thorns.
they haven't.
Oh. Oh yeah, he's got it. Yes, Freddie. I thought someone had taken it. I thought they all picked it.
I wondered if you hadn't seen it. I thought you hadn't seen that.
Okay, how are we doing? Has everyone found a crown? Everyone got a crown that wants one? Henry, your mum's got one for you. Linda's found another. I think has everyone got one? Well, the crowns are really important because you are going to need to listen out as Steve is talking. Every time you hear Steve say something about Jesus dying, going to the cross for our sins, anything that is about the cross or Jesus dying, then you are to take your crown off. Then you can put it back on and you listen again for when Steve says that. Do you think you can do that? Do you think you can do that? Good. Okay, well done.
Now, we have also got one special crown, haven't we?
We have.
They're going to do something different, aren't they?
The person, the person.
It's a sort of ant and death thing going on here. If one misses, the other fills in.
So someone, though, has picked up a crown that didn't look, can I just hold yours up? Someone picked up a crown that didn't look like that. Has anyone got a crown that doesn't look like that? Freddie, would you like to come to the front? Look. Freddie, what kind of crown have you got? Crown have you got? Shall we have a look? Do you know what it is?
A crown made of thorns.
The crown made of thorns, and we're going to find out more about that.
Brilliant,
well
thank
done.
you,
Go and
Freddie.
sit down
You can
then,
go
Freddie.
back, yeah, that's brilliant. So, King Charles, yesterday we heard between 3 and 5 billion, depending on which page on Google you read, for his St. Edward's crown. Jesus got a crown of thorns, sharp thorns sticking in his head. Roman soldiers mocking him. Have you ever cut yourself when you on a thorn? Maybe you've been out walking or in the garden and One little thorn really hurts, doesn't it? Imagine a crown made completely of thorns. I did think about it, but then the whole safeguarding training kicked in. Thought maybe we shouldn't do that. So, soldiers yesterday, they were all really well behaved, weren't they? Really well executed. Did you love the way they all started marching at the same time and they were a mile long? I mean, we do that sort of thing quite well, don't we, in the UK? We're very good at that. But the soldiers around Jesus, the king, mocked him. They put that crown of thorns on him, not because they wanted to say how great he is, but quite the opposite. You see, Jesus served his people like no human king can come close to. King Charles might be willing to die for us. I'm sure he probably is, if needs be. But do you see the difference? His death won't set people free. Jesus is talking about being free from the biggest problem us humans face. The issue is that we need to be freed from the effects of how we are that we see in the world around us. It's the issue that causes the war and the evil of a Putin. Others before him, and there'll be others after, won't there? It's the issue that leaves so much of our world hungry while the rest of us worry about overeating. It's the issue that causes arguments and fights in our homes and causes hurts, causes us to hurt one another, maybe to argue with our brothers and sisters, particularly in the back of the car on a long journey, no doubt. Hurt those we love the most. It's exactly what we really want, is to be king of our own lives. So if you've got your crowns on, that's exactly what we want to be. We want to decide what we do, when we do it, and who and how we should be treated. King of our own lives. It's the heart of why Jesus came to give his life. The problem with living our lives like that is the problem that the Bible calls sin. Now, if you think of the word sin as a little word, S-I-N, it has I in the middle. That's a really easy way to remember what sin's all about. Sin is living our lives, not as God would want, but just as we want. Sin is living our lives, the lives that God's given us, as if God doesn't exist. And the broken world that we see around us is the result of that simple choice. The one true king, King Jesus, came into the world as God's own son, and he came to give his life for that. So when people ask, what is God going to do about all the evil in the world, the Putins, the murderers, the people traffickers, the paedophiles, the liars, the cheats, those who hurt others by gossiping, those who are mean to others in the playgrounds. Why doesn't God do something about it? People ask that, don't they? Why doesn't God do something about that? When people ask that, the answer is really simple. He will. He will punish it. We don't get away scot-free, rest assured. He's got it covered, absolutely. He will do something about it. Trouble is, when you think about it, we're all part of that problem, aren't we? We've all been mean to one another. We've all upset one another. We've all hurt others. We've all been selfish. We're all part of that problem. And that's where Jesus giving his life to pay the price to set us free comes in. See, there aren't many crowns left on the heads. Maybe everyone's feeling a bit guilty after the sin comment. They're thinking, actually, I shouldn't be king. Let's hope so. Why Jesus is the best king is because he truly serves us in that way. The cup of suffering is that punishment that you and I deserve, and he's going to take it for us. He's willing to take the punishment we deserve for the part that we play in our broken world. That's exactly what he did when he died on the cross. And because he's not just a man like King Charles, he's also God. Giving his life, he's able to cover all of our sins, each of us. Now, a lot has been said, hasn't it, of William's kiss on his father's cheek yesterday. Have you read very much about that? It seems to have gone viral. Look, William gave Charles a kiss. What does this mean? And it might have just been protocol, I don't know. A symbol of love, though, isn't it? Jesus' death on the cross is God demonstrating his love for us. There is nothing greater, there is no greater love in all of human history. Jesus, referring to himself as the Son of Man, says, he did not come to be served. Instead, he came to serve others. He came to give his life as a price for setting many people free. That's the greatest king. He solves the problem of our sin if we trust in him. He pays the price for your and my sin if we are trusting in him, if we want him to. Now, that is not a given. It hinges on our decision about Jesus. What is your decision about Jesus, the Son of God? King Jesus or not? Because there are no maybes on this. There is no middle ground. There is no hedging our bets. Will you be set free by his death, King Jesus, the Son of God? If you've not done that, you are missing out on the greatest thing. The greatest king of all eternity can do that for you. I'd love you to talk to me afterwards. Please do, if you want to find out more. Anne is now going to help us by praying to God for us together.